SAS Enterprise Guide is a powerful, comprehensive tool that enables you to perform most common tasks with your data. Let's check out some of its capabilities. But first, what is SAS Enterprise Guide? Enterprise Guide is an easy-to-use Microsoft Windows client application that provides a visual interface to SAS. Whether or not you're a programmer, Enterprise Guide has many features to meet your needs. Let's start by taking a quick look at the interface. I've started Enterprise Guide, and by default, the navigation area is to the left. This area consists of several panes that provide quick access to Enterprise Guide functionalities. On the right, we see the work area, and the start page is open. Enterprise Guide uses projects to manage collections of related data, tasks, code, and results. On the start page, I'll click Create a New Project. One of the major strengths of Enterprise Guide is that it provides access to the power of SAS through a point-and-click interface. Let's look at an example of a task to describe the main characteristics of the cars table. I'll click the Task pane in the navigation area to view a list of available tasks. I'll expand the Describe category and double-click Characterize Data. This task is in a wizard format that guides you through the task in 3 simple steps. In step 1, I'll specify the data that I'd like to report on. I'll click Add, and from the SAS Help library, I'll double-click the Cars table and then click Next. In step 2, I'll select the report options. I want all the output, so I'll leave all checkboxes selected and click Next. Finally, in step 3, I'll limit the maximum number of unique categorical values to be reported per variable to 15. I'll click Finish to run the task. The Characterize Data tab appears in the Work area with the Results tab displayed. These reports and graphs can help me learn more about my data. I'll click the Last Submitted Code tab to view the SAS program that Enterprise Guide generated. Instead of typing this program myself, I was able to point and click through a task to quickly generate the code and the results. If you're a SAS programmer and would like to work with SAS programs instead, Enterprise Guide has a modern editor that makes programming a little easier. Let's write some code to create a listing report of the cars table. On the main toolbar, I'll go to File, New, Program to open a new program in the Work area. On the Code tab, when I type PR, a context-sensitive autocomplete appears with proc highlighted. I'll press the spacebar to add the keyword proc and a space to my program. I'll continue using autocomplete to complete the statement. Print data equals sashelp.cars semicolon. Now I'll use a var statement to select the variables that'll appear in the report. When I type var and press the spacebar, autocomplete provides a list of columns in the cars table. I'll use this to enter make, model, type, origin, MSRP, semicolon. I'll finish the step with a run statement. I was able to type this step very quickly thanks to autocomplete. I'll click Run to submit the program. On the right side, the Results tab displays a listing report of the table, and the Log tab includes messages from SAS. I'll click the Process Flow tab to view the contents of my project. Here, I can also see the relationship between the objects through the automatic links. That was a quick look at both the point-and-click and programming capabilities of SAS Enterprise Guide. Let's talk about how to navigate through the SAS Enterprise Guide environment. When you open SAS Enterprise Guide, by default, you see the work area on the right and the navigation area to the left. The work area currently displays the start page. Under Get Started, I can create a new program or project, or I can open an existing file. So, what's a project? A project is a single file that's a collection of tasks and queries, SAS programs and logs, notes, results, and shortcuts to data organized into process flows. Although you need a project to run a task, if you're only writing code, you could do that without creating a project. To open an existing project, on the Start page, I'll click Open an Existing File. My project is stored locally, so I'll click My Computer, Browse, and navigate to the Profit and Shipping Analysis.egp project file. When I select it and click Open, the Profit Analysis tab opens to display the process flow. This is a great way to view the items in the process flow and to see the relationships between them. For example, I see that the customers, country lookup, orders, and product SAS tables are inputs to the order detail query, and order detail is the resulting table. I'll click the down arrow next to Run. Depending on what's selected in the process flow, different run options are available. I'll click Run Process Flow to run the entire profit analysis process flow. I'll click Submission Status in the bottom right corner to view the status of the tasks. The status information indicates that everything ran successfully, so I'll click Close to hide the submission status. To view specific results, double-click the corresponding icon in the process flow. I'll double-click the bar chart icon labeled Profit by Age Group. The report looks great. Now let's explore the navigation area. It consists of several panes that provide quick access to Enterprise Guide functionalities. First, the project pane displays the contents of the active profit and shipping analysis project. Notice that there are two process flows, profit analysis and delivery analysis, that organize the contents of the project. The Open Items pane provides quick access to items open in the current Enterprise Guide session. The items here correspond to the open tabs in the work area. The Servers pane shows a list of servers that are known to Enterprise Guide, and the SAS Folders pane displays the SAS folders that I can access. I can use both panes to open and add files to my active project. Next, the Tasks pane shows a list of point-and-click tasks that I can use. And finally, the Prompt Manager pane can be used to create, edit, and delete prompts that allow for user input and tasks in SAS programs. Although these panes are initially docked to the left, I can move them around. I'll click Pane Options on the Prompt Manager pane and click Float. Now I can click and hold the top of the pane to freely position it within the application or outside of it. I can also drag a pane until a highlighted region appears to dock the pane in various predefined areas. To remove the pane, I'll click Pane Options again and select Hide. And to restore it, on the main toolbar, I'll click View, Prompt Manager. I can also float the tabs in the work area. I'll drag the Profit by Age Group tab to float it in my Enterprise Guide environment. To restore the tab, I'll click Window Options and then select Dock as a Tab document. To quickly revert to the original layout, on the main toolbar, click View, Reset to Default Layout, Restore. There are other settings and tools available on the main toolbar. For example, under Tools, you can use options to control many Enterprise Guide settings. Under Help, you can quickly access both Enterprise Guide and SAS programming resources. I encourage you to explore these menus to fully take advantage of all that Enterprise Guide has to offer. You've seen how to navigate through the SAS Enterprise Guide environment. You can use SAS Enterprise Guide to access and use data from different file formats and a variety of locations. So let's see how to do this. In my Enterprise Guide session, I've started a new project. I'll show you two ways to add SAS tables, and I'll also add a Microsoft Excel file. To add both local and remote data to my project, on the main toolbar, I'll click File, Open. Here, my computer provides access to data in my local directory structure, including network drives. Servers provides access to locations where SAS is installed and configured to work with Enterprise Guide. If you or your SAS administrator has defined libraries to connect to your data sources, you'll find them here in Servers. If it is available, you'll also see SAS folders as an option to access data defined on the SAS metadata server. The SAS table I'd like to add to my project is stored locally, so I'll select My Computer, Browse, and navigate to the Orders table. I'll select Orders and click Open. The table appears in the work area, and a shortcut to the table is added to the project pane and to the active process flow. You can follow these same steps to add files from servers or SAS folders using the Open window. As an alternative to the open window, in the navigation area, you can use the Servers pane and the SAS Folders pane to quickly view and access your files and data sources. I want to add the local SAS table, Customers, so I'll use the Servers pane. Under Servers, I'll expand Local, Files, and navigate to the Customers table. In the navigation area, I can add a file to my project by dragging it to the Process Flow tab or the Project pane, but I'll double-click the file instead because this displays the table in the work area. What happens if I try to add a file that's not a SAS table to my project? I'll try to add an Excel workbook. When I double-click the products.xls file in the Servers pane, the workbook opens directly in Excel, not an Enterprise Guide. I see that this workbook is added to my project, but I can't use it in a task until I import the data into one or more SAS tables. This is easy with the Import Data wizard. I can launch the Import Data wizard by selecting File, Import Data, but because the Products workbook is already added to my project, I can use the Process Flow tab or the Project pane instead. I'll right-click Products.xls in the Project pane and select Import Data. In Step 1, I'll verify the file that I want to import and provide some details for the output SAS table. I'll click Browse to change the table name to Product List and click Save, and then Next. In Step 2, I'll select a worksheet or range of cells to read in. I want to read the Product List worksheet, and I know that the first row in the worksheet contains the column names, so I'll leave those selections as is. I'll also select the Rename Columns to comply with SAS naming conventions checkbox, and then click Next. In Step 3, I can modify any of the field or column attributes of the SAS table that I'm creating. I'll triple-click under Name for the first column to change it to Product_ID, and similarly change the label to Product ID. I'll leave everything else at the default values and click Next. Finally, in Step 4, I can specify advanced options. I won't use these in this example, but you can click the Help button to learn more about each option. I'll click Finish to import the data. The resulting SAS table appears in the work area, and it looks great. Notice that the column names are displayed by default. To view the labels instead, click More Options and then select Show Labels. When I go back to the Process Flow tab, I see that the original Excel file, the Import Data wizard, and the resulting SAS table have all been added to my project. I can also use the Import Data wizard to import other file types, such as Microsoft Access and text files. You've seen how easy it is to access data from different locations and formats in SAS Enterprise Guide. Data on its own might not be very interesting unless we can do something with it. We can use a wide range of point-and-click tasks in SAS Enterprise Guide to analyze, report on, or manipulate our data. So let's see how to do this. In SAS Enterprise Guide, I've started a new project and added the cars table from the SAS Help library. I want to use a task to summarize the number of cars in each car type. To view a list of available tasks, click the Tasks pane in the navigation area. By default, the tasks are categorized, but I'll click Sort and select Name to view an alphabetical list of all tasks instead. I could scroll through this list to find a task, but I'll filter the task list to search for frequency to quickly locate the one-way frequencies task. When I position the cursor over a task, a help box appears, containing information such as a description and the name of the SAS procedure code that the task generates. I use the one-way frequencies task often, so I'll click the star to make it a favorite. Another way to browse through tasks is to click Open a Task on the main toolbar. This is a quick way to start favorite or recent tasks. Tasks are usually associated with a particular table. So to make a table the active data source, you can select the table either in the Project pane or on the Process Flow tab, then start a task through the Task pane or the Open a Task toolbar button. But because our table is already open in the work area, on the Data Grid toolbar, I'll click Tasks to open a task using this dataset and select One-Way Frequencies under Favorite Tasks. The selection pane is on the left side of the window. You'll see different selections here depending on the task, but most will have data, titles, and properties. Let's explore each of these to create a report. By default, the first category in the selection pane, data, is selected. At the top, I'll verify the data source, and I can click Edit to apply a basic filter, but I won't do that for this example. I'll assign variables from the input data source to various task roles. Some roles, such as the analysis variables role, require a variable, and the icon next to the role shows that there are variable type restrictions. For example, I can assign only numeric variables to the frequency count role, but the analysis variables role accepts all variable types. I want to know the number of cars in each car type, so I'll drag type to the analysis variables role. You can also use the left and right arrows to assign and remove variables from roles. To learn more about each task role, you can click the Help button. In the Titles area, I'll clear the Use Default Text checkbox and change the title to Number of Cars per Type. Next, in the Properties area, I'll click Edit to modify some task properties. To give the task a more descriptive name in the project, in the Default General area, I'll change the label to Cars per Type and click OK. I'd like to modify a couple of options in the other areas of the selection pane. In Statistics, I'll change the frequency table options to include frequencies and percentages. In Plots, I'll select the vertical checkbox to include a bar chart in the report. Finally, in Results, I'll select the Create Dataset with Frequencies and Percentages checkbox, click Browse to change the table name to Type Count, and then click Save. I'll click Preview Code to see the code that Enterprise Guide generates. When I check Show Custom Code Insertion Points, I can add my own SAS code into predefined places. I won't make any customizations to the code, so I'll click Close. I'm finished making selections, so I'll click Run to submit the task. The results are displayed on the Cars per Type tab in the Work area. Here, the Results tab displays the one-way frequency table and the bar chart. The Last Submitted Code tab displays the task-generated code. The Log tab displays execution details, and we can use the log summary at the top to quickly check for any warnings, errors, or notes. Finally, the Output Data tab displays the resulting dataset. Looks great! To rerun a task, simply click Run, or to reopen the task to make any changes, click Modify Task. You can also right-click the task icon in the project pane or on the Process Flow tab and click Run or Modify. You've seen how to use a task, specifically the one-way frequencies task, to create reports and SAS tables in SAS Enterprise Guide. We often need to manipulate our data in some way before using it in a task. The Query Builder in SAS Enterprise Guide is a powerful tool that does that. Let's use it to create the data that we need. In SAS Enterprise Guide, I've started a project and added the cars table from the SAS Help library. I'll use this table to analyze the profit of European cars. Before I can do any sort of analysis, I want to extract just the data that I'm interested in. There are several ways to start the Query Builder, but because the table is already open in the Work area, I find it easiest to select Query Builder on the Data Grid toolbar to open the Query Builder using this dataset. First, I'll change the query name to Profit of European Cars so that it's more descriptive. Similarly, I'll click Change to change the output table name to Europe Profit, and then click Save. On the left side of the Query Builder is a list of columns from the Cars table. To include any of these in the Output table, I need to add them to the Select Data tab. I can drag or double-click a column, But to add several columns at once, I'll click Make, hold down the Control key, click Model, Type, MSRP, and Invoice, and drag them over. If I wanted to add all columns from Cars, I could have dragged the table name Cars from the list instead. I want to analyze the profit of these cars, but a profit column doesn't exist in the input table. To create this, I'll click Computed Columns and select New to start the new Computed Column wizard. In step 1, I'll select Advanced Expression as the type and click Next. In step 2, I'll enter the expression for the new column. Profit is calculated as the difference between the MSRP and invoice columns. So under Tables, I'll expand Cars, double-click MSRP, type a minus sign, and then double-click Invoice. You could also enter the column names manually. I'll click Next to move to step 3 to modify some of the column properties. I'll change column name to Profit, and I'll apply a format because it's a currency value. I'll click Change to open the Formats window, and in the Currency category, I'll select the $W.D format. I'll expand the overall width to 7, click OK, and then click Next. Finally, in step 4, I'll verify the details of the new column. Everything looks good, so I'll click Finish to create Profit and close out of the Computed Columns window. Notice that Profit has been added to the Select Data tab and is available in the list of columns under Computed Columns. Next, I'll filter the data so that the output contains only European cars. On the Filter Data tab, I'll click New Filter to start the New Filter wizard. In step 1, I'll leave the type as Basic Filter and click Next. I only want cars originating from Europe, so in step 2, I'll select the Origin column and click Next. In step 3, I'll build the basic filter. I'll leave the operator as equal to, and for value, instead of typing it, I'll retrieve a list of values from the Cars table. I'll click the drop-down arrow, and on the Values tab, I'll click Get Values and then select Europe. I'll click Next to verify the filter summary in step 4. Everything looks good, so I'll click Finish to create the filter. I could create additional filters and customize the grouping, but this is the only filter I need for this example. Finally, I'll sort the data by profit. On the Sort Data tab, I'll drag over the profit column. I'll use the drop-down arrow to change the sort direction to descending to make it easier to identify cars with the highest profits. There's a lot more we can do in the Query Builder, like change the output format, join tables, summarize data, use prompts, and more. To learn more, I encourage you to click the Help button. I'm done making my selections, so I'll click Run to generate the results. A new tab appears in the work area, and the output table is displayed. Now I can take this new table and feed it into different tasks to further analyze profits on European cars. You've seen how to use the Query Builder and SAS Enterprise Guide to subset data and create new columns. SAS Enterprise Guide has a full programming interface with many great features that make programming a little easier. So let's take a look. I have an existing SAS program, carsorigin.sas, that I'd like to modify to generate summary statistics. There are several ways to do this. When you open SAS Enterprise Guide, on the Start page, you can choose to create a new project and then add the program to the project, or you can open the program without using a project. I'll do the latter, so I'll click Open an existing file. The SAS program is stored locally, so I'll click My Computer, Browse, navigate to the program, and double-click carsorigin.sas to open it in a new tab. This program reads in the Cars table from the SAS Help library and creates 3 tables, Asia, USA, and Europe, that are based on the origin of the car. It also creates a listing report of the Asia table. By default, the Code tab is on the left and the Log tab is on the right. I can drag the tab names to float the individual tabs or rearrange this layout, but I'll stay with the default layout. The Code tab is where I'll write and submit my code. When I place the cursor on a keyword in the editor, like var, a syntax help box appears. It includes a description of the keyword, as well as links to product documentation, samples and SAS notes, and papers. Color coding is enabled in the editor to distinguish keywords, quoted strings, formats, and more. Before making any modifications to the program, I'd like to run it. There are many predefined keyword shortcuts in Enterprise Guide that I can use. To view a list of these, on the main toolbar, select Program, Enhance Editor Keys. One of my favorite shortcuts is the F3 key as an alternative to run. You can even use this window to create your own custom keyboard shortcuts. I'll click Close to return to my program and press F3 to run the entire program. The Results tab appears on the right with a listing report of the Asia table. I'll click the Output Data tab to view the resulting tables. If there's more than one table, I can double-click on each table name to view it. Finally, I'll click the Log tab to view messages from SAS. By default, the log summary appears at the top of the log. This is a quick way to view any errors, warnings, or notes that have been returned. When I click a note in the log summary, the corresponding note is highlighted in the log. When I right-click the note and select Go to Program Source, the portion of code that produced the note is highlighted on the Code tab. Next, I'd like to add a report that calculates summary statistics for the Asia table, analyzing MSRP. To do that, I'll add a proc mean step at the end of my program. When I type PR, autocomplete provides a list of valid keywords. Proc is highlighted, so I'll press the spacebar to add the keyword proc and a space to my program. Next, autocomplete provides a list of procedures, so I'll type ME and use the spacebar again to add means. Now autocomplete gives me a list of valid options for a proc mean statement. If you're unsure of what an option does, you can place the cursor on the option name in the autocomplete window to see a quick description. I need to use the data equals option, so I'll double-click data equals from autocomplete to add it. A list of assigned SAS libraries appears. I'll type W to highlight work, and when I press the period key, work is added along with the period. Finally, I see a list of tables in the work library. So I'll type A and then a semicolon to add Asia and a semicolon to end the statement. Next, I'll add a var statement to request summary statistics for the MSRP column. I'll type var and then press the spacebar, and a list of columns in the Asia table appears. I'll type MS and then a semicolon to include MSRP and end the var statement. I'll close the step with a run statement. To change these editor settings, on the main toolbar, select Program, Editor Options. On the Appearance tab, you can control the color coding and font. On the Autocomplete tab, you can change or disable autocomplete and the integrated syntax help. I'll click Cancel to continue editing my program. To quickly improve the readability of the program, click Format Code. Looks great. I need to run only the proc mean step, so I'll highlight just that step and click Run. An alternative is to use the F3 key. The results, output data, and log tabs are replaced to reflect only the proc mean step. I'll click Save carsorigin.sas on the main toolbar to save the program. You've seen some of the programming features available in SAS Enterprise Guide, but there are many more. Some of these, such as snippets and editor macros, can be found on the main toolbar under Program. I encourage you to explore these different features to customize your SAS Enterprise Guide experience.